Hi, Galina here again with Legacy Counseling Center. Today I just want to briefly talk to you about active listening and what that means in this world that we're facing today. Many of us want to be heard and need to be listened to with our extra stress and anxiety. So listening is important because good listening probably helps us build It does help us build connection with other people and build relationships. Active listening is not passive listening. You probably have experienced this before, where the person is technically listening, but they're not engaged. They're tuned out and they're on autopilot. They're just mentally not engaged with what you're saying. So as a speaker, we feel dissatisfied. We don't feel connected. We're discouraged with the conversation that we're having between you and me. And the people that we're talking with, we may not even want to talk to them in the first place. It sort of turns us away, and we understand that they're not a good listener. So to be active listening, it looks and feels and sounds obvious. And active listening means being completely listening. So it takes some commitment. We are going to be committed to be active listeners. And we're going to practice. Active listening doesn't happen overnight. And we really need to make it a priority and practice it. It's not magical. It's not mysterious, but it is a skill that we can develop when we're speaking with somebody. So active listening involves skills. So we need first to, in order to be active listening, we're looking at non-verbal skills. And there's two sides to this. Two sides, meaning on the first side, we're demonstrating that we're engaged non-verbally. And how do we do this? By putting our devices away. Just putting stuff aside, making eye contact, maybe moving in forward to just tune your ear in and say, I'm listening. And the nonverbal skills are that, yeah? We're just saying, tell me a little bit more about that, but we're really paying attention to what the person is saying. We're noticing. Now the other side, we're paying attention to what the other person nonverbal communication skills are. And you're looking into their eyes and you might see their mood. Are they nervous? Are they frustrated? Are they annoyed? Can you pick that up in their nonverbal communication skills? Yes, you just got to practice. Secondly, it involves verbal communication skills. There's two sides to this too. As a good listener, you need to ask good questions. There's a pattern that happens. Letting the person talk, you're getting information, and you're sort of, with that information, you're trying to figure out what they're saying. And you're asking good questions about what they are saying. You're fully paying attention to what they're talking about. What's the subject? And you're asking thoughtful questions about the subject or the concern that they're talking about. And this is what we do many times in therapy. We're really listening to what the other person has to say, not what we are thinking about it or what we think they should do. We're really just listening to hear what they are saying about it and seeing where they want to go with that. And then there's small utterances that I mentioned a moment ago. It's sort of leaning in and noticing, I hear you say, that makes sense. Sometimes it's not even the words that we use. It's really the That's telling us, or telling the other person that we are engaged, that we do want to hear what they're saying. And the other person will notice that. Next, it involves active listening, involves responding to what the other person has said. So there's a pattern. Pattern is a person speaks, and you ask a question, and then they speak again, and they respond, You're letting them talk as long as they want. And then it's going to be your turn. And when it's your turn, you're actively, because you're actively listening, you're giving an informed response to what they've said. So, for example, if they're talking about that they like to go diving, you are actively listening and you're letting them talk about that. And at the end of their turn, it's now your turn. And this is where you can be actively following up and sort of reflecting. We want you to reflect about what they said. And this really sort of giving back to them what they've said. So it could be something, it sounds like you're really excited about this sport, that you really think it's cool, or use some of their words that they've used about talking about the sport. Or you could say, I had no idea that you're into diving. And this just gives you some information. It's not about what you're thinking about, it's reflecting back what they have talked about with you. And that's really important. It's reflecting back what they have said. It just allows them to know that you've heard them and that you're not sort of concerned with how you're thinking. When they're done talking, perhaps it'll be your turn to talk about something, but you're giving space and time and telling them that you want to be a part of that conversation, that you're not stone-faced, but you're involved and you want to hear what they're saying. You want to be a good listener, and that's really, really important if you reflect back what they have said to you. And the next part would be focus on them. So we're sort of already have said that, but really focusing on them. It might be obviously that if you're listening, you're focusing on that. However, we get distracted. We think about other things, or when someone's talking, we might want to decide to give advice or try to fix their problem for them. And that's not always what someone wants or what they need. They really just want to be able to tell their story or talk about their favorite subject, or just vent about something that's going on at work or at home. And they just want to be able to talk freely with you. And that's really important. It just allows us to build relation and connection with the other person around us. And then later in the conversation, you'll get a chance to talk. So these are just sort of basic rules of active listening. And I hope they are helpful today, that it helps you build some connection and builds relationship with the people around you. Thank you for listening.